6 months ago, I was planning a wedding. Now I'm trying to choose between the woman I love and the one who shaped my soul. One ultimatum, and everything shattered. If you had told me 6 months ago that the woman I planned to marry, the one I imagined sharing forever with, would demand I erase nearly 2 decades of my life overnight, I would have laughed. Dismissed it as a cruel joke. But I'm not laughing now. I'm sitting here in a half-packed apartment, a ring box on the kitchen counter, my fiancée gone, and a voice note echoing in my mind like it was branded there. Choose. Her or me. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back. Way back. Skylar 26F and I 26M practically learned to walk together. We met in first grade, bonded over building sandcastles and shared snacks, and by middle school, we were attached at the hip. We weren't just childhood sweethearts, we were partners in everything. Birthday parties, family vacations, lazy Sunday mornings, her family became mine and vice versa. My mom calls her my other daughter. Our siblings became close. Our dads coached our soccer teams together. There was never a time in my life when Skylar wasn't there. We officially started dating when we were 13. I still remember the nervous energy in my chest when I asked her to be my girlfriend under the bleachers at our first homecoming game. We were so young, but even then, our connection felt real. More than just a fleeting high school romance. We held hands through the chaos of puberty, fought through our SAT prep, danced at prom, and wrote each other heartfelt letters when we left for different colleges. Fast forward to college. Things got complicated. New friends, new dreams, new directions. I wanted to study architecture and move to the city. Skylar wanted to work in conservation and be closer to nature. She fell in love with the forests of Oregon. I fell in love with steel and skylines. We started pulling in different directions, not out of anger or betrayal, but out of growth. We sat down one day, held hands, and decided to part ways. No screaming. No cheating. Just two best friends realizing their paths had changed. Somehow, we remained close. The friendship endured, even deepened. There was no confusion, no mixed signals. It was pure platonic love, the kind that doesn't die when romance fades. We cheered each other on, celebrated birthdays together, helped one another through job rejections and health scares. When Skylar lost her grandmother, I flew across the country to be there. When I landed my dream internship, she sent a gift basket with blueprints printed cookies. She was family, maybe not by blood or law, but by years of shared memories. So when I met Nova 24F 3 years ago, I made sure she knew everything. Our history. Our families. How intertwined our lives were. I didn't want any secrets. Nova seemed fine with it, more than fine. She smiled at our shared stories, laughed at Skylar's jokes, even insisted on inviting her to events. She and Skylar bonded over wine at our housewarming. They even planned a surprise birthday dinner for me together. Nova was like a breath of fresh air. Confident, funny, charming in a way that made you feel like the center of her universe. She had this incredible drive. She was working in marketing, climbing fast, always 2 steps ahead in her career. We connected instantly. Our first date turned into an overnight conversation. She told me about her childhood, growing up with 2 older brothers who teased her into becoming tough. How she had trust issues from a past relationship that ended in betrayal. She said she wanted something real. Something rooted in honesty. I gave her that. From day one. When Nova said yes to my proposal just a few days ago, I was on cloud 9. The ring sparkled on her finger, and she couldn't stop smiling. Everything was perfect. We celebrated with champagne at my parents' house. Skylar was there too, of course she was. She toasted to our future. Nova hugged her tightly, told her, "You'll always be welcome in our lives." I believed her. Until today. We were in the kitchen, sipping coffee, the late afternoon sun spilling across the countertops. Nova was quiet. Distant. I figured she was tired. There had been some stress with wedding planning already, mostly about the guest list. "Can we talk?" she asked, setting her mug down. "Of course. What's up?" Her voice was flat. "I can't marry you unless you cut Skylar out of your life. Her and her family." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "What?" "It's not normal. You're too close. It's weird. And I've been thinking about it for a while. I don't want her at the wedding. I don't want her in our lives. And I don't want you around her anymore." I was speechless. I actually laughed, nervously, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. "Nova, you've always liked Skylar. You invited her over last week. You are the one who asked her to join our New Year's trip. I was trying, she said, voice trembling now. I really was. But I can't keep pretending. The way you talk about her, how your families are so merged. I feel like I'm the outsider sometimes. Like I'm stepping into something that I'll never fully belong to. Skylar and I aren't romantic. Haven't been in years. It doesn't matter. You were. And she's still too close. You can't have a wife and a second wife. Choose. And then she walked out. Just like that. She's staying with her friend Julie. Won't take my calls. Her last text said, "Let me know your decision." That was 48 hours ago. Since then, I've had calls from my mom, Skylar's mom, even my little sister, confused and hurt that Nova is suddenly icing them out. Skylar hasn't contacted me, probably giving me space, but I saw her post on her Instagram. A quote about how people fear what they don't understand. Maybe it meant nothing. Or maybe it meant everything. My dad, usually so composed, told me, "You need to think hard about the kind of life you're choosing. Family doesn't stop being family because someone else doesn't get it." But then there's Nova. She sent me a voice note this morning. Her voice was shaky. "I love you, but I need to be the most important person in your life. Right now, it doesn't feel that way. I can't marry someone who still shares his heart with someone else. Even platonically. That's not the kind of partnership I want." She's not wrong to want that security. But am I wrong to believe you can have deep, meaningful friendships from the past that still exist alongside love? The real twist came last night. "Julie," Nova's friend texted me. "You should know, Nova saw a message Skylar sent you last month. Nothing bad, but it upset her." I searched my phone. The message? Skylar had texted, "You looked so happy when you were talking about the proposal plan. I'm proud of you. Nova's lucky." That's it. That's what triggered all this? I'm stuck. Torn between history and future. Between the woman who helped shape me and the one I want to build a life with. But it's more than that. It's about who I am. If I give up Skylar, I lose a part of myself. If I keep her, I risk losing Nova. I don't have an answer yet. I'm stuck in this emotional purgatory, waiting, thinking, wondering. And I know I have to decide soon. Because one way or another, something is going to break. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at my phone, watching for a message that never came. Nova's name sat there like a ghost, top of my recent calls, last seen 2 hours ago on WhatsApp, voice note played but not responded to. The silence was loud, like a ticking clock inside my head. I kept replaying everything she said in the kitchen. Her trembling voice, the way she looked at me like I'd betrayed her. Like I'd cheated. But I hadn't. I swear to God, I hadn't. The only thing I was guilty of was loving two people in different ways. One platonically. One romantically. But try explaining that to someone who sees emotional closeness as a threat. Try explaining to the woman you love that the girl you grew up with isn't a rival, she's part of your origin story. I called Nova again. No answer. I left a voicemail this time. "Please. Can we talk? I need to understand. I love you, Nova. But this is tearing me apart." I didn't say Skylar's name. Not once. I figured that was half the problem. By morning, my apartment felt like a museum of good intentions. Her coffee mug still sat by the sink. The sweater she always wore when it was cold, gray, oversized, soft as hell, was draped over the back of the couch. I ran my fingers over it like it would bring her back. It didn't. My phone buzzed around 10 a.m. My mom. "Honey, are you okay? Nova isn't returning our messages. She left the group chat." I closed my eyes. Yeah. She's upset. What happened? She gave me an ultimatum. There was a long pause. About Skylar? Yeah. Another pause, longer this time. "She's scared," my mom finally said. "But that doesn't make it right. Skylar's not a threat. She's family." That word again. Family. It echoed in my mind like a chant. But it meant different things to different people. By noon, Skylar's mom called. Then my sister. Then Nova's friend Julie, again. Each conversation chipped away at my ability to think clearly. I felt like I was drowning in other people's opinions, all while the one person I needed to hear from refused to speak to me. The day dragged on like molasses. I went out to walk, clear my head. Every couple I passed on the street felt like a reminder of what I was about to lose. I imagined Nova's laugh. The way she used to bump my shoulder when I said something ridiculous. The way she'd sneak glances at me when she thought I wasn't looking, like I was a puzzle she was still trying to solve. And Skylar, she was radio silent. No texts. No calls. I think she knew. I think she could feel the weight of what was happening and didn't want to add to it. Or maybe she was waiting, too, wondering if I'd eventually turn into someone who chose love by subtraction. That night, I went to see my dad. I needed clarity. A voice not entangled in the emotions of it all. He poured me a glass of bourbon and just waited. Didn't push. Just let me speak. She wants me to cut Skylar out. For good. He nodded slowly. And what do you want? I want both, I admitted. I want to marry Nova. I want to keep Skylar in my life. I don't think those two things should be mutually exclusive. But Nova does. Yeah. He sipped his drink. You can't build a marriage on resentment. If you force Nova to accept something that makes her feel unsafe, it'll poison the foundation. But if you cut Skylar out of your life, knowing it goes against who you are, that'll poison you. I stared at him, throat dry. So what do I do? He looked at me the way only a father can, like he saw the boy I used to be and the man I was becoming all at once. You figure out who you are. Not who they want you to be. Not who you think you should be. Who you are. Then make the choice that aligns with that. I decided to take a walk down the lawn to make more sense of all my conflicting thoughts. My thoughts were a tornado, pulling everything into their orbit, memories, doubts, fears. I thought about the first time I introduced Nova to Skylar. They laughed like old friends. I thought it was a green light. I never imagined it was a ticking time bomb. While I was walking down the lawn, I received a WhatsApp video call. It was Skylar. Can we talk? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, she said, finally. I didn't mean to come between you two. You didn't. She looked up, eyes shiny. I did. Even if I didn't mean to, I did. And I've been thinking, maybe Nova's right. Maybe we've held onto this too tightly. Maybe it's not fair to your future wife to share you with someone from your past. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Skylar. No, she cut in gently. I'm not asking you to pick me. I would never. I just wanted to tell you, whatever you decide, I'll understand. I love you. I always will. But maybe it's time I step back. She wanted to end the conversation, and I panicked. Skylar, wait. She paused. I don't know how to do this without you. You won't have to. You'll just learn to do it differently. And she ended the call. And just like that, the girl who'd been my constant for 20 years was gone. I didn't cry. Not then. It wasn't until hours later, when I scrolled through the pictures on my phone and found the birthday card she'd made me a few months ago, filled with inside jokes, doodles, and a note that said, I'll always be your biggest fan. That's when the dam broke. I don't know how long I sat on the floor, phone in one hand, tears blurring the ink. I felt hollow. Like someone had scooped my insides out and left just the shell. I couldn't sleep throughout the night. The next morning, I went back home and slept throughout, and by noon, I felt it was time to get hold of Nova, the woman I planned to get married to. I still hadn't heard from her by that point. And every minute that passed felt heavier than the last. My mind raced, cycling through every possible worst-case scenario. Was she hurt? Had something terrible happened? Or was she just so angry that she didn't want to speak to me? I tried calling again, each ring slicing through the silence like a knife, but it went straight to voicemail every time. My heart sank deeper with every unanswered call. I sent her another message, fingers trembling as I typed. Please just let me know you're okay. If I don't hear from you soon, I'm going to have to call your family or friends. I'm really worried. The thought of involving others made me hesitate, but I was desperate for any sign she was safe. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed. Relief washed over me until I read her cold, curt response, I'm fine. I'm not coming home. No explanation, no warmth, just those 6 brutal words. I tried to call her again, desperate to hear her voice, to somehow reach the part of her that still cared. But the line went dead. She had turned off her phone. I felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling. The silence that followed was suffocating. I didn't know what to do. How do you fix something when the other person won't even talk to you? I just wanted to hear her voice. To tell her I loved her. To tell her everything was going to be okay. By late evening, feeling more alone and scared than I had in years, I made my way to my parents' house. It wasn't far, Just about 5 minutes if traffic cooperated, but that short trip felt like a lifeline. When I arrived, my parents could immediately tell something was wrong. I barely managed a weak smile before retreating to the spare room. Exhausted, emotionally drained. I didn't want to burden them with the chaos inside my head, but I needed the safety of their presence, even if I felt utterly broken. Sleep was out of reach. Every creak of the house, every distant car horn kept me on edge. Then, just a few hours later, my phone started vibrating like crazy on the bedside table. It was Nova. Messages poured in, frantic and angry. "Where are you? Did you run back to her?" I was confused. I had no idea what she was talking about. I scrambled to explain I was at my parents', that I was coming home soon, begging her to just hold on. I threw on some clothes in the dark, fumbling with buttons and zippers as my hands shook uncontrollably. I was so nervous I kept dropping my keys. The clock read 2 a.m. and the world outside was still and quiet, except for the pounding of my heart in my chest. I was almost out the door when headlights flooded the driveway. Nova pulled up, and the moment she stepped out of the car, I could see the fire burning in her eyes. Her face was flushed with anger, every muscle tense. She stormed toward me, yelling at a volume that made the neighbors peek out from their windows and porches, flicking on their porch lights to see what was happening. I tried to stay calm, to reach her, but she was a storm I couldn't stop. Her words were sharp and cutting. She accused me of things I hadn't even dreamed of, an affair, betrayal, lies. She claimed her family knew everything. I was speechless, heartbroken. I tried to tell her the truth, that I loved her and had never betrayed her, but her ears were shut. Every word I spoke bounced off the wall of rage she'd built around herself. My parents had come outside now, drawn by the shouting. My mother stepped forward, her voice gentle and pleading, trying to calm Nova down, to get her to listen. Nova snapped at her, calling her cruel names I never thought she'd say. Bitch, liar, terrible mother, and accused her of encouraging my supposed betrayal. My mother stood there, hurt but trying to stay composed, until Nova's rage exploded into violence. Out of nowhere, Nova landed a hot-sounding slap on my mother's face. The slap echoed in the cool night air like a thunderclap. I froze. My mother's eyes filled with tears as she touched her cheek, trembling. For a moment, everything stood still. Then Nova's face twisted into immediate regret, her voice shaking as she stumbled out apologies, but it felt hollow, like too little, too late. I looked at her, really looked, and saw a stranger. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone dangerous and unpredictable. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing, couldn't believe she'd hurt someone I loved so deeply. That was the breaking point. I told her to leave, that this was over. I ended our engagement and told her to pack her things and get out. She cried, begged, apologized, but the damage was done. I couldn't undo the pain she'd caused. Not to my family, and not to myself. As she got back into her car and drove away into the night, a crushing emptiness settled over me. I felt numb, as if my heart had been ripped from my chest and stomped on. How could 3 years of love and trust come crashing down in a single night? How could someone I cared for so deeply become so full of anger and suspicion? I kept replaying everything in my head, searching for signs I missed, wondering how I could have been so blind. I sat with my parents for a long time afterward. They held me as I cried, offering what comfort they could, but I felt like a shell of myself. The love I thought I had was gone, replaced by pain and confusion. I don't know how long I sat there, staring into the darkness, wondering what the future held. For now, I've decided to stay single. To heal. To find myself again without the weight of heartbreak dragging me down. It's going to be a long road, but I need time. Time to breathe, to grieve, and maybe one day, to love again.